I lived in the public eye. And I really believe a lot of what they said.
Diva.
Serial bride.
How do you feel about your butt?
You did not just ask me that.
I did.
If I was in front of Jennifer Lopez and she said, you can't sing, I'd go, neither can you.
I said to her once, doesn't this bother you? And she said, I expected this.
Back to the butt talk.
Who are you wearing, Jimmy Kimmel? Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Brian Brushwood, and I recommend you plant your butt right down wherever you are and buckle up for less than an hour of the most amazing stories of how to cut the cord.
Right, that really packs them in. They're like, oh, really? Less than an hour, huh?
All of a sudden, across America, everybody's sitting down.
Well.
Speaking about their butts, Bryce, what did we just hear the intro to?
So that was a trailer for Netflix's upcoming documentary, Halftime, which follows Jennifer Lopez in what I'm believed to be the run-up to her Super Bowl halftime show. Netflix had a similar documentary like this for Lady Gaga a few years ago called 5'2", and it was exactly that. It was like, here's pretty much the year of her leading up to the halftime show and them getting set up and all the hard work, and then not really showing the show, maybe some clips. So I expect that it'll be something like that. Still some interesting stuff.
With Gaga, it was about people talk about how short you are. And with J-Lo, it's about people talk about your butt.
And like the Gaga thing was partly her recording that Joanne album. So there will be other stuff. J-Lo talks about the Hustlers movie she was in, some other stuff. That's June 14 on Netflix.
Indeed. Well, Brian.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of a little film called The Star Wars.
It was called The Star Wars originally, wasn't it?
It was at one point in its history. We have a lot of information around that little universe in our primary target. Vanity Fair, which over the past several years has become like a hotbed for Star Wars news, published a wide-ranging article on Lucasfilm and Star Wars in advance of Obi-Wan Kenobi premiering on Disney Plus this week. Obi-Wan apparently began as a feature film in 2018. Some of the stuff you may be like, I heard this before, but this is like on the record, right? We're confirming. Obi-Wan began as a feature film in 2018, switched to being a TV series in 2019, at which point Stephen Daldry left because he wanted to direct a film, and Deborah Chow, who had proven herself on The Mandalorian to be a very good TV director, came on board. And it was Deborah Chow, apparently, who convinced Hayden Christensen to join the project. In fact, debate over what Darth Vader's role in the series would be led to a soundstage booking getting canceled, which is one of the reasons you saw production of Obi-Wan delayed to March 2020. And well, then, of course, it got delayed more because 2020. But we also got some details about the various series that are in the works for Disney+. Andor is coming summer 2022. The director of Bourne, Tony Gilroy, will be doing that one. It stars Diego Luna as Cass Andor, set years before the events of Rogue One. The third season of Mandalorian will happen sometime between summer of 2022 and 2023. They talked about how Jon Favreau won an argument with Dave Filoni over whether to put the child, aka Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, into the show. Ahsoka is coming in 2023. It'll focus on a continuing story, most likely her hunt for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Rosario Dawson admitted she shared a post saying that Hayden Christensen would appear in the series without knowing whether that was true. She might have fallen for clickbait, it kind of sounds like. Also, we learned Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who happens to be Ewan McGregor's wife, will be in the Ahsoka cast. And then we got a few details about The Acolyte, which is a Disney Plus mystery thriller series written by Russian doll co-creator Leslie Headland. Set 100 years before The Phantom Menace. Largely, it's done being written. They're into casting, and it will address the question, how did we get to a point where a Sith Lord can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi pick up on it? They're gonna answer that question. There's also another series in development called Codename. They don't have a name. It's Codename Grammar Rodeo. That's a Simpsons reference. It's in casting. It'll have 4 lead characters that are ages 11 or 12. It's a coming-of-age adventure series. It will be led by Spider-Man No Way Home writer and director Chris Ford and John Watts, set contemporary with The Mandalorian, so between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Brian, we got some news about movies, and we got a big statement from Kathleen Kennedy, but do you want to talk about these series a little bit before we get to that?
On the one hand, we should be surprised by none of this, because the whole reason that Disney spent so much money on the Lucasfilm archives is because not only were you getting the movies, the popularity, the universe, but you also got all of the extended universe novels. If I'm going to steal, actually, you know what? Put a pin in what I'm saying right now, and let me hear from Kathleen Kennedy.
Sure. Okay, so if anybody's like, okay, that's great news about the series. We know they're good at series. What about movies? Are we ever getting another movie? Yes, we are. The next film coming will be directed by Taika Waititi and written by Christy Wilson Cairns, who wrote 1917. It looks like that might be August 2023. They didn't give us a date. They just said the next Star Wars movie you see will be the one directed by Taika Waititi. They didn't tell us anything else about it. After that will be Rogue Squadron, which is the one directed by Patty Jenkins. That's apparently on the calendar for December 2023. But again, in this article, they didn't confirm the timing. So that stuff might change. Vanity Fair called the Rian Johnson deal backburnered. They said they're just sort of still working out his schedule. He's a busy man. We'd love to have him do these movies. So hard to say if that one's even happening. Kennedy actually denied that there was anything specific to say about Kevin Feige doing Star Wars movies, which is kind of a rowing back from previous leaks. And there was no mention of the Game of Thrones showrunners Benioff and Weiss, who were supposedly doing movies. Finally, though, the thing that Brian was alluding to just now, Kathleen Kennedy talked about how they need to steer away from the Skywalker saga and recast, and the idea of recasting or enhancing old characters. She basically was like, I should have recognized this before. We would never make Indiana Jones without Harrison Ford. So she's like, we're not going to do any Han Solo stuff without Harrison Ford. We're not going to do Luke Skywalker unless it's Mark Hamill. She said, just staying with the construct of George's storytelling to keep chipping away at that, I think would be wrong. It's our job to step away now, but still have a connection to the mythology that George created. That won't stop. But we are moving on from the Skywalker saga. That's what's taking a lot of time, discussion, and thought right now.
Okay, so half a decade ago, when we were talking about all of this acquisition news as it was happening, I was so excited to see the rest of the Star Wars universe brought to life. Your Grand Admiral Thrawns, your Tales of the Bounty Hunters, your Tales from the Cantina, all that stuff. The closest they got was Solo, but in general, they really have been just milking the original movies. As a fan, that deeply disappointed me. Even more disappointing was the rhetoric they used at the time of saying that this is what everybody's here for. Everybody wants Darth Vader. We're just going to squeeze everything we can out of this. Part of me is still angry that none of the things I wanted out of Disney acquiring Star Wars have come to pass. However, we've also talked about, we watched the descent of cable into madness. We watched as people said the things they needed to say at Comcast, at Spectrum or whatever, in order to hit these quarterly numbers to the board, all the while lying through their face because there's no way to keep the company going if you admit that, oh yeah, we're totally screwed in 4 years. And so I don't know that I can stay angry at every move they made up until then, because dollar for dollar, they have made so much bank on the acquisition of Star Wars. Tom, I don't know how to fault them as people whose primary fiduciary responsibility is to the shareholders. They've done the right things for the shareholders. They've done the wrong things for the fans. And if they're doing the right things now for the fans, do I get to be mad that they're doing the right thing but at the wrong time? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I tend to think that we exaggerate the idea that doing the right thing for the shareholders is always the wrong thing for the fans. I would argue that you can't do the right thing for the shareholders without being the right thing for your customers too often, or you no longer have customers. And if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. And if you don't have a business, it's the wrong thing for the shareholders. So I would argue that if they made that much money off Star Wars, yeah, maybe some of it was just coasting on the fact that people will pay for any Star Wars. But there have been other franchises that are beloved that couldn't coast that far. So they may have done some things right. Or it may be that you, fan listening right now, have this idea about Star Wars that isn't the same as several other million people who paid money and loved the things that you didn't like. I've talked with people who are good friends of mine who love the prequels. They exist. So we I think tend to think like, oh, well, I have found two other people that agree with me on this, and therefore that's what the fans think. And I don't think it's that monolithic. That said, I think it is pretty clear that it isn't as popular as it could have been. It's not the we got all the fans on board. And that's what Kathleen Kennedy is finally coming around to is, well, we could make a lot of money doing what a lot of the fans like, but gosh, we could have been even more successful if we did something that all the fans like. And the reason I come around to it from that direction is in the end, they kind of had to go back to the Skywalker saga to satiate those fans who wanted more of that before they could get to the point where even those fans were like, yeah, okay, tell me something new. Show me the Mandalorian that's mostly disconnected until its later seasons. Show me something new. I want to see 100 years before. And now you can do something that's going to bring all the fans on board. Because if you'd gone straight away from the Skywalker saga, you would have the opposite problem. A bunch of people who are like, yeah, I love this. It's great. It's new. But then other people are like, yeah, but I'm not interested. You know, so you would have the same issue either way. This is just the route they chose to take.
You also would have launched a new franchise with characters that were unfamiliar, that didn't resonate and didn't satisfy the unmet need in the fan base for that hunger for more of the Skywalker story. So if I say morally, that sounds too strong a word, but like if in service of the story, you could make a very strong case that the right thing to do is to squeeze all of the money out of the Skywalker saga and then have a war chest to create the rest of the Star Wars universe. And I'm uncomfortable saying this because as a fan, I've not had a great time for the last 5 years. I haven't had a great time with various directors having different visions, undercutting each other's stories and all that stuff. The most fun I've had was when we went to the first season of The Mandalorian, but then they started tying it into other franchises to make this mega narrative or whatever. But I do know that money causes new interesting projects to be done. And if you buy something, you probably want to squeeze all the money you can so that you could tell all the most interesting stories that can go from there.
Yeah. And again, I know you're talking about it in terms of money, but money doesn't come if you haven't satisfied fans. So I get this thing where people are like, oh, it's a money grab. I'm like, yes, so is selling milk at the store because people love milk, but not some people are lactose intolerant. It's a money grab. Like, what isn't a money grab, really? Like, to me, I think something only deserves the term money grab when you tricked everyone into buying something that wasn't what they thought. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. I signed on for more Star Wars and I hated it. That's how some people felt about The Force Awakens. And if everyone had felt that way, then I would have thought, oh, that was a money grab. Money grabs don't work more than once in a row, though.
Right.
So I don't think The Force Awakens was a money grab. And I don't think Mandalorian or Boba Fett or any of that was a money grab. I think they really were honest attempts to say, we want to satisfy a part of the audience. You may not have been a part of that audience, and then you are rightly unsatisfied. But I don't think that makes it a thing that was bad or something they shouldn't have tried.
I like that distinction. The only way it's a money grab is if you keep the money. If the money gets reinvested in an attempt to expand the universe, then by definition, it's not a money grab. It's a temporary money
It's a money
seizure and
Yeah.
redistribution and reinvestment.
It's commerce.
Yes, correct.
is what that
like,
is. So-
and it's very weird, Tom, because this universe is so precious to me as a fan that I want to overreact, but also I understand. Like, if what you want is more Star Wars, if you want to see Stephen King's The Dark Tower universe told in a Star Wars setting, the only way you get there is by there being so much money in the Star Wars ecosystem that they're able to speculatively do all of these crazy other projects, right?
Yeah, and there's no doubt that they have reinvested a lot of the money, right? They've spent a lot of money on these movies and TV shows, or we wouldn't have got The Mandalorian. We wouldn't have got any of this stuff. So then it's just a matter of like, well, if you're looking at this stuff and you're like, man, I used to like Star Wars, I don't like it anymore. That sucks. But there's nothing wrong with that. You could just be like, well, it's not for me anymore. They went in a different direction. I look at it and I think, well, Obi-Wan seems interesting because I'm curious about that story. I'm curious about, knitting the prequels and the mainline saga together. But I am starting to get tired of the saga. So Andor, even though it's not part of the saga, really, it's kind of part of the saga. I'm not that excited for it. I love The Mandalorian, so I am excited for that. Ahsoka, I liked Clone Wars and I like that character and I like Star Wars Rebels. So to me, it's like, oh, I'm getting more of that, but it's not something new. The Acolyte is the only one that I look at and I'm like, oh, okay, that could be interesting. It depends on what Leslie Headland does with it, whether it's going to be interesting or not. But that is an interesting question of how do the Sith get in a position where Palpatine could do that? And I could see that being a very creative story. It might not be, but it could be.
Almost certainly it's a magic stone that you can buy once the movie comes out. But but I do like the idea of not having a finality to anything. Not saying I used to like blank, now I don't like it anymore. Instead, much like Tesla was worth nothing, then it's worth something. Now it's worth less. Don't think in terms of what it's worth ultimately. Think in terms of what this franchise is worth to you right now. What is its emotional stock with you?
Yeah. And I honestly think Taika Waititi has got the best chance of bridging these gaps because he's done it. He didn't have to bridge a gap with Thor, but Thor was kind of thought of as maybe one of the lesser franchises within Marvel until Taika Waititi came on the scene. And then it became one of the most beloved movies out there because it was different and it was fun. And I feel like that's what we're going to get with his movie. And it's smart that they recognized that and decided that's the first one we should come back with to the theater.
I don't like how gray his beard is.
Taika?
Yeah.
You had to find something to not like about Taika?
Yeah, no. And until I have something better, that's going to be it. Right now, too gray in the beard.
Too gray. Yeah. Anything else about Taika you don't like?
No.
Nope, that's it. Okay.
No.
All right. Yep.
I have to find something. Help me, Tom. I don't like his accent. Except for I love his accent. Never mind. I take it back.
Not from where I am accent. Okay. That's a number two. Number two there. Okay.
I don't like that he wasn't born with the name Taika Waititi. He had to make it. Oh, nope, that's only a strength.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get back to that.
Cordkillers at gmail.com. Give me something to not like about Taika Waititi because the dude can't bat 1,000 forever.
Yeah. Anyway, I will say the first thing I thought of when I read the Kathleen Kennedy comments about moving away from the Skywalker saga was Brian Brushwood's voice in my head going, finally, yes, I've been saying this for years. You need to do that. So
Fan Brian has been saying this for years, but also, Money Brian is a little more understanding of the need to extract what you can.
Yeah. And I think the thing that they can learn from Kevin Feige and the Marvel folks is you have to have structure and then give creative freedom within that structure. The structure can't be too tight, but the freedom, you need to have the structure. You can't say, sure, Rian Johnson, undermine everything JJ did in the first movie. You have to be like, no, you can't go here, but then leave enough room that you're like, but anywhere else, go for it. Be
Yeah.
free, and hopefully they take
Scooper
that.
Nova Girl in the chat has it nailed. He was a terrible villain and Free Guy. Why? Because he was trying to be a bad guy, and all I wanted to do was hug him and hang out with him.
Yeah, yeah. You know the thing I hate about Taika Waititi? He's so lovable.
Yeah, too lovable.
I hate that I like everything about him.
The only thing more lovable, nope. Hey, patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Oh, I was hoping you were making a connection there. The only thing more lovable than Taika Waititi for us is when you go support us on Patreon.
Yeah, but truthfully, it's like I would give up all the money if I could just hang out with
I
Taika
know,
Waititi.
it's
That's the
probably
problem.
true. Yeah.
Okay,
Sadly
we have
true.
a new goal. If we hit a gigantic number, insert a gigantic number in your mind of pledges, we're going to have Taika Waititi on this show. That's right. Called shot happening right now. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. You get all the episodes in one RSS feed. You get our special bonus after talk segment where we talk dirty about movies that we don't like. And there was a movie I watched that I did not like, and I will not be sharing it in the main show. I will let the world have it in after talk.
Excellent. I realized that if we can get to that crazy Patreon level where we get Taika Waititi on the show, he probably is the person who knows the most about what not to like about Taika Waititi.
Oh no, that would be heartbreaking. He would spill all the reasons that I can't think he's
Here's why
perfect.
you shouldn't like me. Yeah.
Bryce, the important question is, do I have 3-digit disease again or no?
No, you do not. We've got 1,004
bosses.
patrons.
Wow. Well, you know what I have now? It's not a technology reference disease. I want it to be 1024, not just 10,004.
Oh, you want to hit a binary number.
Yep. It's not binary.
20
disease,
shy.
So
20 brave individuals. Maybe I'll patronize our own account just to help you with this disease.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. All right, Disney Plus announced some details about its coming cheaper tier that will have ads. As we've mentioned many times on the show, everybody's doing it. Even Netflix is doing it at this point, or plans to do it. So Disney gave us the following. It will not have any political or alcohol ads. I saw somewhere that they said gambling, but then I couldn't find that repeated. But the point is, they want to keep it family friendly. So no politics, no alcohol, no ads if you're logged in through a preschooler profile. Disney Plus, one of the few that has a particular profile just for preschoolers. Not the only one, but one of the few. And the preschooler profile limits what you can watch. So if you're like, oh, I'll just log in as a preschool and watch everything, you might not be able to watch all the things you want to watch. But no ads if you're logged into a preschooler profile. And no matter what profile you're in, no ads will be shown on shows that are targeted at preschoolers. So even if you're on an adult account, if it's a preschool targeted show, it won't have ads. Also, the ad breaks will be limited to 4 minutes per hour, which is about the same as what HBO Max has. It's 1 minute less than what Peacock has, way less than what Disney-owned Hulu has, which is 9 to 12 ads per hour. And they will start even smaller. They're going to start with just 15 to 30-second ad breaks at first. So one ad basically is what that means, either 115 or 130. Eventually it'll build up, but they say the max is 4 minutes. Ad-free is $8 right now. They have hinted that they're going to raise that. Sounds like the ad-supported version will then come close to that, but they did not announce prices, so we don't know how much either of these are going to end up being. They also defended the widening of the types of content. There's been some criticism of Disney Plus, bringing Daredevil onto Disney Plus when that's not exactly family friendly. Disney CFO Christine McCarthy said, the one thing we hear from subscribers, especially the ones who quote unquote churn out, that is they sign up and then they sign off, is that, quote, they're looking for more general entertainment. And she cited the stat that about half of Disney Plus subscribers don't have kids.
Oh, whoa, hold on. That very last part kind of blew my mind. Wow. Okay. Well, number one, I do think Disney Plus has done a pretty good job of separating out adult, air quotes, adult content, where it's like they send you almost like the opening to Leisure Suit Larry, where they ask you like, who was Spiro Agnew? You have to answer that he was the vice president who got kicked off of Nixon's
the reality
team or
show
whatever.
that is.
No. But the point is like they really want to know that you're an adult before they show you Daredevil. I think they're being responsible about that. Here's my question to you: Is the money too good in ads, or is this an indication that Disney Plus has less prestige than I thought they did? Because I'm going to guess Apple TV Plus will never have ads. Netflix is flirting with it. HBO Max already does have tiers, Hulu, all of those. Disney Plus could have played the prestige game.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the money or their status?
I think they realize that the money's too good. They know how to do it because they do it on Hulu, so they had an in-house advantage that Netflix doesn't have. And because everybody, including HBO Max, is doing it, it's not that kind of differentiating factor that it would have been if there had been more than Apple TV Plus holding out. I think Apple TV Plus not having ads is less of a factor because you think of it as part of your device, right? It's like, oh, yeah, because it's from Apple. It's part of my phone or something.
I
think Disney looks
would
at
have
it
agreed
and
with
says,
that before.
everything's going to have an ad tier, including HBO. So I don't think we take the hit to prestige. I think the hit to prestige comes more through the widening the types of content. The prestige was, it's the Disney brand. You know what you're getting. And then now that they're throwing in, old episodes of Alias and stuff, it feels like, well, okay, what is the difference between this and Hulu again?
I would counter that take with the fact that they launched with 5 verticals, including National Geographic and a Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, but the widening
show.
is like, okay, we were going to stick with those verticals and they were all family verticals. Now they're going to go away from those verticals.
Meanwhile, as far as the prestige thing, I don't know. Apple TV Plus, I would imagine, has a different playbook now that they've won Best Picture, with Coda, which I'm still trying to get my family to watch.
Oh, and people are pointing out that Apple TV Plus has ads on baseball. So it's not like they could never do ads. They do.
I don't think that they do. Do they do it on the live broadcast?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They have ad breaks and they have ads in the ad breaks, but it's also, you don't have to pay for that. That's a feature that you can get without paying for Apple TV Plus. So yeah.
I guess my general impression is that, man, this is all risk with very little reward for Disney Plus because nobody's going to
I think it might be the opposite.
Sell me.
But go ahead. Finish your thought.
To complete my thought, nobody's going to judge Apple TV Plus, ESPN, Hulu, HBO Max. Like, they're going to be like, yeah, whatever, algorithmic something or other. But Disney Plus is our surrogate babysitter, and we will judge them on what they do.
I think it might be the opposite because you don't have to get the ad tier, right? You can get the ad free tier, and they are taking the steps to say that preschooler stuff not going to have ads. Now, your 8, 9, 10-year-olds going to have ads, but I'm not sure how many people really view that as that big of a deal compared to network television or cable television, which has loads of ads, and Disney's being very smart. Like, you're not going to have nearly as many ads.
I think Bryce nailed it. He snuck it in the chat rather than saying it into the mic, but spill it. I think you're right.
Well, like Disney Plus is a very attractive price, and it doesn't have ads. If they're going to make more wider ranging content, and we've seen Netflix raise its price, I'm sure Disney will want to raise prices, and you can either keep raising prices for no reason, or you can say, hey, now there won't be ads. Wouldn't it be great to watch Disney without ads? Oh.
That is a very effective strategy to simultaneously announce a more expensive option and a cheaper option at the same time.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty risk-free. It's riskier to raise the price than it is to add the ad tier, right? Because you're already a subscriber. But if it goes from $8.99 to $9.99,
Would you pay that so your kids don't have to watch ads?
If once it goes to 10, there's a psychological barrier that it crosses. But I feel like they're banking like, okay, some people will get mad no matter what we do if we raise a price, but $9.99, a lot of people are like, well, it's not that much more.
But even then, once you get up to $9.99, then you could get even more by saying buy a year in advance and get it for $9.99 per month.
Well, and they're pushing the. I saw on TV while I was eating lunch some Hulu and Live TV ad, and they have a little big yellow button on the front that says includes ESPN and Hulu. So that's the next step is get people on their bundle, and then have the bundle version that does or doesn't have ads. I mean, you can spread this all the way around. And it's not like Netflix.
I still don't think Disney knows what to do with Hulu. So
hold it in.
Well,
right?
Mother Nug suggests maybe they want to just bring Hulu into Disney Plus, and that's the widening.
I mean, certainly they're doing test marketing to find out if they can get away with that. But in the meantime, to everybody listening, not knowing what to do right now doesn't mean you don't know what to do with it, right? Yeah. So it's like what they're doing is they're watching. They're watching very, very closely, trying to figure out whether or not it should be folded in under the umbrella.
And because we've seen them make moves, they've moved Hulu stuff over to Disney already, originals, library stuff. So
and big umbrellas have worked. Like I was wrong about HBO Max. Yeah. And it could be that I'm wrong about keeping Hulu independent from Disney Plus.
Maybe what they're toying with, like you say, they're trying things and they're going to figure out what works and stick with it. ESPN's going to become a service that you can pay for in the bundle or outside, right? ESPN Plus will morph into just being ESPN at some point. That's going to happen. We talked about how Bob Chapek pretty much said, yeah, we're getting closer to the point where that's going to happen. So then does Hulu become the live TV product? Do they slowly morph it into being like, oh, if you want live television, streaming television, linear television, get Hulu. Everything else is on Disney Plus.
That would work. I don't know. I feel like we're pretty far in the weeds at this point.
Yeah. No, we're just speculating out into the front, but I kind of feel like that's somewhere where Disney might be going. So once we have those services, what do we watch? Well, we'll find out in What to Watch Under Surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Deadline and Variety sources say that the creators of Covert Affairs on USA, Matt Corman and Chris Old, will make a new Daredevil series continuing on from the Netflix series. Will it be a reboot? Will it be something else? We don't know, but Deadline and Variety both say like, yep, Disney Plus definitely going to bring new episodes of Daredevil.
If you were going to place a bet, I mean, almost certainly we're going to have the same faces, right? We're going to have the same.
Well, Matt Murdock, he's already been in the movies, so yeah, I think that makes sense. They're gonna bring him back. Whether they bring the other, folks in or not, I don't know. I think they would like to.
So
probably.
Here's my question: is do we think that they're going to get softer or harder? Now, Daredevil started off pretty hard, which is one of the things I loved about it. But Charlie Cox is such a compelling actor. I would watch a legal drama series where he's just a lawyer all the time. He's great.
Yeah. He's just a LA Law, but Daredevil.
Yeah, or a live action Ace Attorney reboot or something. Sure, he's Daredevil. He's awesome, but it's mainly in the courtroom.
Well, Cliff Singer is claiming that Netflix is Earth 546, and that, as we all know, Supernova Girl reminds us, the main MCU is Earth 616. So maybe they just retcon all the Netflix shows to be another multiverse, and this new Daredevil is played by the same actor, just like multiverse sometimes has the same actor. We've playing the same person across the multiverse.
Am I a bad person because I didn't know the numbers of the universes or whatnot?
I knew 616 because it's referenced in Doctor Strange. Okay. That's the only reason I know it.
All right.
Also, 616 is what some people interpret as the number of the beast. They say 666 was a mistranslation.
Okay.
That's why it stuck. I'm explaining, like, why did 616 stuck out there?
No, I'm glad you brought this up because I have a lot of rabbinic Hebrew theory that I'd like to go through right now.
It's good. So tune in to After Talk for Brian Brushwood's rabbinic
Wow,
theory.
I've never seen Bryce switch the camera away from me faster.
You were laughing. I like to get your reaction.
Adult Swim approved an anime version of Rick and Morty to be called Rick and Morty the Anime. The director of Tower of God, Takashi Sano, will direct. He did 2 of those shorts that they did for Rick and Morty anime before. This new series will be 10 standalone episodes on Adult Swim and HBO Max. San said, quote, "The multiverse straddling exploits of Rick and the gang pose challenges to the family bond, but they always rise to the occasion."
I really liked watching the animes, but I liked them as being a curious variation on the main thing I liked. I don't know that I'll watch a whole series of them.
I'll watch the first episode and then I'll decide if I'll watch the entire series, because the shorts were very self-contained, like we're just doing a riff. This seems like they're going to do another aspect of the Rick and Morty multiverse and more of a plot, basically.
And it will fit in the universe, but I don't tune in for the action set pieces. I tune in for the meditation on the nature of multiverses and what happens when you're an immortal, awesome god.
What if Takashi Sano brings you that?
I mean, could happen.
Okay. Because I feel like the answer is like, sure, but then it's just someone else's version of that. And I like the original version. So why do I need another one?
Bryce, are you at all interested?
I'll check it out. I mean, I like Rick and Morty well enough, and those shorts were fine. I don't even know that I watched all of them, but they seem fine. I'll try it.
Yeah. I get the feeling this will be different than the shorts. So,
because it's like it's like 10 episodes. You can't just do 60-second things.
We got a new trailer for the She-Hulk series coming to Disney Plus on August 17th. Tatiana Maslany plays attorney Jennifer Waters' cousin to Bruce Banner. Some people have described it as Ally McBeal, but She-Hulk.
Remember when I was saying I would watch a law drama with Daredevil where he never fights anyone? She-Hulk is precious to me because she was smart, funny, very much a woman, and also self-aware. I don't know that they'll do any of the winking at the camera stuff that they did in the sensational She-Hulk, but I am guarded and being protective of my own heart when I say I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited about this. I want this to be very good.
I could see the winking at the camera stuff, possibly. It's not ruled out by this trailer, but I did find this trailer didn't tell me much about what I was going to see.
It does kind of steal a couple of the great things about She-Hulk because she was strong like the Hulk, but also smart. And this is eventually there was an arc where Hulk was smart, and that's what we're seeing here is this fusion of Bruce Banner and the Hulk being and so on. But instead, the idea of she was always strong and tough-minded, and in the trailer they sort of present her as whinging and cowering. I have a feeling that won't last very long.
Yeah, that's a fake out. All right, 9 episodes of that starting August 17th. 9. That's a lot for a Disney Plus Marvel series. Interesting. Also, new trailer for Prey, directed by friend of the show, Dan Trachtenberg, set in 1719 in North America, 300 years before the events in the original film Predator, coming to Hulu August 25th.
Yes. All of this, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know. I keep wanting to make comparisons to Acolyte, like 100 years before the events. Try 300 years. Get Dan Trachtenberg to do you a Star Wars film. That's what you need to do.
All I know is I want this to be the biggest thing to ever happen to the franchise since the first movie. I'm all in on this.
Indeed. Me too. All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. And Brian, I'm so glad that you watched the one thing that everyone who's younger than us watched over the past week. What was it?
It was Men by Alex Garland.
Oh, that wasn't the one I was
Oh,
thinking
no,
about. Okay,
no.
go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead.
You know what? I didn't care for it. I'm going to talk about it in After Talk. The thing I do want to talk about is the reboot of Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. It was freaking great, done by the Lonely Island guys. So many... Like, I was fascinated by the legal entanglements of every character who showed up for less than 2 seconds in this thing. Did you like Roger Rabbit? Would you like to see Roger Rabbit again, including Roger Rabbit? Would you like the Lonely Island to do it? Would you like it to be self-aware and call out all of the tropes of a reboot while it's happening? I did, I do, and I loved it. I watched it twice. It was great.
So what I'm hearing, and this is encouraging, is as someone who has zero nostalgia or attachment to Rescue Rangers, who really is ambivalent about Roger Rabbit, and I know that's heresy to say, but I saw it and I watched it once and that was it. I'm going to love this, is what you're telling me.
This is the brilliance. Do you like the Lonely Island? Did you enjoy the big sexy Valentine's Day special with Michael Bolton?
Yep.
Great. Do you know literally any cartoons from the last 30 years?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to have a great time. Are you
Okay, good.
aware of the most obvious tropes in all movies?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there's a line where they get the Gadgeteer from Rescue Rangers, who, because again, all of them are actors, so there's a little bit of that kind of Barry Hollywood sauce in there. But they go to one of the actors who played the Gadgeteer, and they get her to make a gizmo that flies through the air, and she literally says, "Wow, I guess my real life character and the character I played on Rescue Rangers are almost identical." It's great. It's great.
Fantastic. I have had the distinct pleasure of being married to someone who works for Rotten Tomatoes, which means I get to watch screeners from time to time. And we have got a sneak peek at Stranger Things, which is coming out later this week on Netflix. And I have to say, it's great. The last couple of seasons of Stranger Things I have watched because I already liked Stranger Things, and it didn't do anything to make me go, I can't watch this anymore. But it wasn't something where I was telling people like, man, you've got to watch this. This first few episodes of Stranger Things season 4 are back to being compelling. They're doing a horror take. They're doing a very what if E.T. was a horror movie kind of take, not with extraterrestrials, but just with that sort of part of the family of Stranger Things has moved out to California. So you get a little bit of that vibe because of the time period they're in. It's wonderful. I was surprised. How much I enjoyed the first episode and couldn't wait to start the second one.
Is it the kind of show that you could drop in not having seen any of the previous stuff?
I do think you could. They do a good enough job of setting the remember we fought the Thing in the past. I also say that because a lot of times when they do talk about the past and show a flashback, I'm like, yeah, I sort of vaguely remember that they fought a Thing, but all right, that's cool. I think you'd be okay. I know completionists are going to be like, no, you need to catch up on the Thing or at least read the Wikipedia article. But I do think it stands on its own plot wise, right? Without saying, well, you have to know this stuff or it doesn't make sense. I don't get any of that sort of feel from it.
Speaking of E.T., there's a scene in Rescue Rangers where the main character is walking down the street and there's a bunch of Hollywood billboards for crazy movies that would never happen. And one is funny. The second one is funny. The third one just says E.T. versus Batman. And he stops. He goes, now that one's pretty good. And then it cuts to a scene where E.T. goes, E.T. forgive Batman. It's amazing.
Fantastic. So once again, everyone watch Rescue Rangers, including me, and Stranger Things coming May 27th to Netflix. What should we be on the lookout for, Bryce?
Hey, Dan sent in a recommendation. Dan writes, hello there, Cordkillers crew. I just wanted to express my gratitude for the incredible work Brian, Tom, and Bryce constantly do on the magnificent show. Thank you so much. I also come with a recommendation. If you couldn't catch the incredible film RRR, Rise, Roar, Revolt, one of the most incredible blockbusters from Tollywood on the big screen. It is now available on Netflix. What is it about? It takes place in the 1920s in India, when a young girl is stolen from her mother to become the British governor's plaything. Indian historical revolutionary Komaram Bhim decides to rescue the girl, while the government assigns Rama Raju, another real-life revolutionary, to stop him. Before they learn they're working against each other, they become the greatest of friends in an adrenaline-fueled action ride. There's dancing in it as well. It's over 3 hours long, but believe you me, you will be thankful for every single minute of it. Thank you for the awesome work. Keep up the good job, amigos Matak Hobbles. Thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, that is called RRR. It's streaming on Netflix in America with a Hindi dub. Other dubs, including the original Telugu version, are on India's Z5 streamer, ZEE5. So check that out. I have heard a lot of things about this movie. I've heard that it is the latest, biggest thing to come out of that part of the world. So RRR, check it out.
Did I just see you take an off ramp before saying the word Bollywood? Is Bollywood canceled?
No.
It's not from-
Tollywood is just a different language. Bollywood is in Hindi. Tollywood is in Telugu.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So check that out. Thank you, Dan, for that. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
All right, folks. Listen, I know that I've been pushing Free Tom newsletter, and I 100% believe that you should subscribe to Free Tom newsletter. If you just want to have a personal conversation with me, I get to just talk about what I've been doing, what I've been reading, what thoughts are in my head. It's fun. But some of you know me as a technology podcaster, and those of you who like that should get my Substack, which is techtom.substack.com. It'll get a better URL someday, but for now, it's just every once in a while writings about technology. So I've explained the stablecoin crash. I've talked about what's the actual comparison of energy usage of gold and the Bitcoin. If you like stuff like that, once again, go to techtom.substack.com. Brian, if you had a computer, how would you subscribe to it?
Well, first of all, I don't have a computer. Thanks for rubbing it in my face, Tom. I guess I better head on over to doghousesystems.com/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout. Get a free SSD. Support our show. But once I do have it, I'm going to go on over to, what was it called?
Techtom.
Techtom.
Techtom.substack.com.
So what is it? It's Tom Merritt minus
everything but tech.
Prostate
Tom Merritt minus everything but
songs.
tech.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Yeah. You like my perspective on tech? You want me to explain some things? Yeah, go subscribe. Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
While Netflix has some of the best retention numbers of any streaming service, it is reaching saturation, and those numbers aren't getting better anymore. In fact, the information cites a survey from Antenna finding that 14% of cancellations in Q1 of this year were from people who had been with the service for more than 3 years. That's not a lot, right? You're like 14%, but it's bigger than it used to be, and that's not the direction Netflix wants it to go. This, however, is consistent with Netflix signing up fewer newer users, which is what we found out when they lost subscribers recently. As Netflix reaches saturation, it's cutting costs, laying off about 150 of its 11,000 employees, kind of across all departments, including some executives. And Netflix can't just spray money at shows anymore, so it needs to find out what's actually working. Variety says Netflix is showing upcoming TV shows and movies to select members of the public, select subscribers, in order to get feedback. Good old-fashioned focus groups. And of course, Netflix also continues to add features. A new feature called Mystery Box has shown up on kids' profiles. It's basically play something for kids. And audio descriptions are being extended to 10 more languages.
So, Tom,
Brian,
I believe in the, 13 years we've been doing this program, I don't think we've ever talked about the possibility of Netflix saying the C word.
the C. Whoa. I mean, I actually have heard it in some of their shows, especially the British ones. But wait, you mean a different contract? Oh.
In a world where the king is dead, cable is gone, it seems to me like Netflix is well positioned to either keep on flopping about right now, trying to get people, I don't know, maybe ads, I don't know, maybe more originals. We'll show you the stuff. Meanwhile, Comcast, Spectrum, all those guys, they're all like, why don't you just make them sign a contract, bro? 3 years, lock in the price, lock it in.
So I don't think Netflix would do the like, get it for $4.99 a month for a year and then the price automatically goes up. I don't think they would quite go right to that. I'm not saying they'll never do it, but I could absolutely see them do hey, you want to lock in your current rate? Sign a 3-year deal and you'll be locked in.
Didn't Disney did that before Disney Plus launched? They tried to lock people into multi-year prices, and some of those prices were okay because they beat out some of those prices.
I have one of those prices. Yeah. It's very good. I might say, I should add.
I could see Netflix doing this and saying like, hey, they'll find a better way to say it, but hey, we either need to make more money or spend less money.
Talk about the C word.
Yeah.
It's time for the N word to talk about the C word. Nope. All right. The Weather Channel is going a la carte. A live stream is available that you can access by logging in with your cable subscription credentials or paying $2.99 per month. The Weather Channel live TV is available on Fire TV, Android TV, and coming soon to Roku, Samsung, Vizio, and Xfinity Flex. I got to tell you, Tom, I love everything about this except for that $2.99. If you told me $20 per year, I'd be done.
What if I told you $26 per year?
Yeah, sounds like a lot.
Oh, okay. Because that's exactly what it would be at $3 a month.
Right. But meanwhile, like $20, one app, I don't have to think about it for a year. In a world where at any moment, I'm afraid that Dark Skies is going to be yanked from my home screen, because Apple bought them or whatever. Give me a yearly thing.
This is not the app, the Weather Channel, although they are concomitant. This is on your TV. You can pay to get the Weather Channel, the one you get on cable, streaming to your television. Yes. I think this is a milestone because the Weather Channel is like synonymous with cable. Since it launched in 1982, you don't get cable that doesn't have the Weather Channel. And the Weather Channel is one of those things you're like, I don't know what to watch. I'm going to stick it on the Weather Channel because I need to know what the weather is. It is one of the most trusted names in news, apparently, because it's the weather. And people are like, well, I know you won't politicize that. It's either going to rain or it won't. And you're probably going to be right these days because meteorology has advanced so much. So I think it's huge that the Weather Channel is able to say, we can offer this a la carte. Yeah, $2.99, maybe not the right price, or maybe it should be yearly. But the fact that they can offer it a la carte at all, I would have called unthinkable 5 years ago.
Yes. Also, I try not to make a habit of pointing this out, but I find it fascinating. On 9/11, the Weather Channel was the only channel that was refusing to admit that 9/11 was happening. Next issue.
But they had to do the weather, Brian.
Yes,
the weather never stopped.
They never mentioned. It was really weird.
Google TV's individual profile feature is rolling out over the next few weeks to devices that run Google TV. If you don't recall, Google TV is a special Google implementation of Android TV. It's Android TV with some nicer features and interfaces. Maybe they're not nicer. I don't know. Different ones, though. Profiles is one of those features. Profiles lets different individuals in a house get separate recommendations, watch lists, and Google Assistant responses, something that Apple TV has had.
And Nielsen's April edition of The Gauge estimates that streaming TV made up 30.4% of total viewing. That's a new high, up from 29.7% in March. Cable still led with 36.8% of total viewing, and broadcast had 24.7%. Netflix led the way among streamers with 6.6% of total viewing, followed by YouTube with 6.1%. HBO Max showed up on the chart for the first time with 1%.
Yeah, I think it's worth reminding people these days, too, especially with all the bad news around Netflix, that they're still bigger than YouTube on TVs anyway. Like, that's huge. And that HBO Max is just now having enough people that they get listed. Before they were in the and everyone else category. So
man, and HBO Max feels so much bigger than it actually is. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's but it's growing, and Disney Plus is in there, but again, it's not. I think it's like half what Netflix's viewing is. So a lot of people watching Netflix, just saying that. I think the significant thing, too, will be when TV from streaming ends up passing 50%. You know, we talked about it passing 50% in other ways. When it passes 50% on this one, that'll be huge.
Yeah.
When it passes cable, it'll be huge. It hasn't quite done that yet either. A bunch of other things here. CW canceled the DC series Legends of Tomorrow, The Batwoman, and Naomi. That leaves The Flash, Superman and Lois, and Gotham Knights as the DC shows on the air on CW. Remember, CW has kind of been the home for DC TV shows. Dancing with the Star judge Bruno Tonioli will leave the UK version of the show, which is called Strictly Come Dancing, in order to focus on the US version because it's moving to streaming, because it's going to Disney Plus. He said, that's going to be a big deal. Travel makes it hard to be on both, so I'm choosing the streaming one. An Ocean's 11 prequel from Jay Roach has brought Margot Robbie on board to star and produce. Apparently this one will be set in the 60s. Amazon's broadcast of the first episode of sci-fi series Night Sky went to space. That was a little stunt. They used the SES and Intelsat systems to broadcast the episode into space. Peacock released a trailer for a new Queer as Folk coming June 9th. The DVD and Blu-ray editions of the documentary Get Back will arrive July 12th. And Squid Game corrector Hwang Dong-hyuk told Vanity Fair that the next batch of episodes will come at the end of 2023 at the earliest. So if you want more Squid Game, just hang in there. They're coming next year, maybe 2024.
So moving to the streaming version of Dancing with the Stars, that would seem to me, if I were a terribly jaded person, to feel like maybe there was just a big old fat paycheck and he just needed literally any reason to give to it. He could have said because it's in the US or...
My spidey sense was tingling as well when it was like, no, it's because it's streaming and this is my decision, no one else's. In fact, it was when he said this is my decision, no one else's. I'm like, you didn't need to add that,
like that's not the kind of thing that somebody who's making a decision usually says.
So
when my child says, I'm going to bed and this is my decision and nobody else's, I look for a glowing light under their mattress or under their blanket.
I have to say, though, I looked at this headline, Bruno Tonioli leaving Dancing with the Stars, and thought, oh, he doesn't want to be on the streaming one, right? He's like, he just wants it. He wants to be in Europe. He wants to be on the UK one because it's broadcasted. It's more prestigious. He thinks it's getting kicked to the curb by going to streaming. And it turned out to be absolutely the opposite. It turned out to be them saying, no, Bruno wants to be on the streaming one, which, again, did make me a little suspicious that they were making such a big deal out of it, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. I'm going to go to the next one. Ander, dear Tom, Brian, and Bryce. While talking about TV streaming numbers, Tom kept saying he's the target demographic for TV programmers and that he's old. You're not old. You're prime time.
That's right.
Thank you, Ander. Thank you, Ander. I will say I appreciate the sentiment greatly. I don't mind being old. I kind of like the idea of being old. I always have since I was a young person in high school carrying my AARP card around. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to me, but I like primetime. That's good. I like that one.
How much of Derek's email do you think we can consolidate here?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, first of all, he was being in the biz. Derek hit us up saying, "Woo, that was some commentary on this week's episode," as we talked about whether or not broadcast television was dead, whether or not the upfronts mattered or anything. He says, "Are both the upfronts and broadcast networks still relevant? My opinion is yes for both, though both are quickly evolving and pivoting based on how the landscape has changed." He talks about the nature of the upfronts itself. He says, going back to linear TV, though, to Brian and Bryce's point, it's not going away anytime soon. There are a lot of dollars there. It'll depend on the demo audiences that you're looking to reach. As always, Derek offers the very best insights. Maybe we can put this up as a post for patrons.
Absolutely. I love that. Clyde wrote, "Hello, gentlemen. I want to offer the following thoughts in response to your argument discussion about broadcast TV on episode 408, so along with Derek. The real benefit of a traditional TV company over streamers lies not in the primetime slot, but in the number of ways viewers can access the content. Let's say the modern rogue gets picked up by NBC and is given one of the coveted primetime slots. Obviously, you'd have access to a number of eyeballs thanks to over-the-air, but the show would also appear on any one of the OTT services, both live and DVR, Hulu the next day for now, and Peacock. Now, in the unlikely event that NBC decides the live numbers aren't what they need, they could easily shift the show to be streaming only as a Peacock original. If that were picked up by Netflix, it's on Netflix. That's it. Clyde, that's a great point as to the current state of broadcast TV. I was trying to project, like, are we actually seeing, the decline in the prestige? And I would argue that I think you're right. And I think that is a decline in the prestige, is that it's hey, broadcast TV is a great incremental add to something on streaming. And if it fails on broadcast, it'll stay on streaming.
I can't deny there's a logic to that, where it's like you'll get a very glamorous premiere, and when immediately, stay tuned for our discussion of Barry, it gets relegated to the minor leagues, there'll be the minor leagues there waiting for you.
Yeah. And then James said, Brian, I'm with you 100%. I think the Barbie show you are talking about is Barbie Life in the Dream House.
Yes.
I absolutely loved it. I would watch it with my kids 4 years ago, but still remember so many of the jokes and look forward to the new Barbie show. Bryce, I would love to know if you find it as fun and entertaining as two mature guys with kids do. Keep killing the chords. Your boss, James.
Oh, so now we're both old.
I don't know about the specific show, but I do always see a lot of children's like shows and stuff are becoming memes and are just being like, it's cool, like seeing, I don't know, new Sonic cartoons being funny, or these Barbie shows. Like, well, writers are getting smarter. Writers are good.
And that, of course, goes back to the success of Sesame Street, where it's like they didn't have to bother to be funny to the parents, but they did. And that's why the parents loved watching it with the kids.
Yeah. No, and whether it was by design or a happy accident, it made those shows more successful because the parents were like, yeah, no, I don't mind you watching that. That's fun. That's a funny show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Don't forget, folks, that next week is the Memorial Day holiday in the United States. So we will be back with a brand new episode on June 6th. Tell your friends. Don't panic. If there's no Cordkillers in the feed next week, it's because we are solemnly taking the day to remember dead people. That's next week. The week after that is June 6th. And we'll be back with Cordkillers. Why are you laughing?
Mainly because I remember one of my daughters, like 3 years ago, I think I tweeted this out, for an assignment. She wrote a Happy Memorial Day, and she drew like a bucket-headed soldier with mean eyes, like, yeah.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk to you next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful names.
I'm sorry, I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're addicted.
As long as it's consensual, like,
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.